Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. It is Women's History Month series continues. I'm glad to have another great guest waiting in the wings. But before I bring her on, I'll hit my music. Let's get it. All right. Once again, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. It is the 2026 Women's History Month series. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. And like I said at the top, got another great guest coming up where I highlight mostly most incredible women in this space, whether it's sports, media, business, journalism, content creation, anything like that. So, but before I bring my guest on, you can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, whether it is Spotify, Apple, YouTube, BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com, BS3 Network Roku channel, wherever you consume your podcast. We are on there, iHeartRadio, all those platforms. You can follow me on all the social media platforms. That is Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Blue Sky at Get the Real Deal with Courtney Harden. So follow me there, like, subscribe, all those things. All right, let me bring in my guest here today for this edition of the Women's History Month series. I have Kennedy Bright. She has a little bit of everything. She does content creation, sports reporting. She has a YouTube channel, podcast. We're gonna get into all of that with her as well. The KC Locker Room Talk podcast as well. So Kennedy Bright, welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. And like I said, we connected on TikTok, social media. That's how it is. You know, you get connected, the algorithm comes in, and as like I said, I was following your content for a little bit. So I just wanted to get you on. So again, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yes, thank you for wanting to have me in the first place. I was like, oh wow, somebody wants me on their
Yeah,
podcast.
for sure.
Okay.
Yes, you do a lot of good things in
Thank
this
you.
space and everything. So I've wanted to, like I said, I do this Women's History Month series. I've done it for it's been a while. So, and I always have a lot of different incredible people that's in this space, like I said, with media, sports, and business and content creation. So I wanted to have you on. So I thank you for accepting the invite.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to highlight you and everything. So, but let's get started. I always start with my first time guest who's on the show for the first time. Ask this question every time: who is Kennedy Bright, and how did you get into the love of sports and where you are today?
Well, I guess I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri. Like I guess I'm going all the way back.
Yes.
That's where I was born and raised. I do live in Dallas, Texas now though. But I got into sports just because I started playing. Well, I did dance first when I was 3. I started playing soccer when I was 5.
Okay.
And soccer games are on Saturdays, dance is on Saturdays. So as I got older, my mom's like, you have to make a choice. And so I was like, well, soccer is a little bit more fun. So
Yeah.
I went ahead and did that all the way through to college. And I also started track in high school. So I've always been into sports, but I would say my obsession when I was younger with figuring out how to become a professional athlete and what athletes do like in their like private lives, as in like what workouts are they doing, what are they eating, and things like that. That kind of is what made me realize a little bit more like, okay, I think I want to get into like journalism because I want to be able to answer those questions for people. And
Right.
especially back then, we didn't have like in the early 2000s, you didn't have like social media. That wasn't a thing.
Mhm.
So now it is a little bit easier. That might not have been my motivation now if I grew up in a different time where we had social media.
Mhm.
But that was kind of like how I got into it a little bit. I was like, okay, my dad always said if you work a job you love, you never work a day in your life. So I was like, well, I want to work in sports. So it was
Yeah.
about 3 different like little sections. I was like, okay, either I want to be a sports agent and go to law school, I want to be a journalist, or I wanted to be a sports medicine doctor. But I toured he's a team doctor for the Royals, and I was like, I don't want to do that. He had this long needle, he had to stick in this lady's knee, and I was like, I'm good.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
okay. And too, I always like joke. I was like, I don't want to be behind the scenes. Like, I want to be seen. Like I don't know where that kind of came from. And my parents always joke. We went on one of my school visits, and she's like, I know you said you wanted to do like journalism and stuff. That's our radio station right there. And I remember I said it out loud. I think I forgot she was there, but I just knew my parents were there. And I told everybody, I was like, does this face look like it's made for radio? My parents, Kennedy. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, so it's always kind of been a thing of like, I don't want to be behind it. Like, I like a desk. I wanted an office, like sitting behind a desk or something, but like, I don't want to be there the whole time in a cubicle or in an office. I'm like, no, I need to be out there and mingling and stuff. So
yeah,
this kind of sports, but like journalism route became more of my actual route. And so that's kind of how I pretty much kind of got into it for the most part.
Okay. All right. Well, no, that sounds good. And I love hearing the journey and the story, because every journey is different from everyone that's got into, with sports journalism and media. And you said you wanted to be in front of the camera. You wanted to be out there and showing, what skills you have and things like that. One thing you brought up interesting that I want to get back into is you said you wanted to get into more of where do these, the athletes, like what, their workout regimen, where they eat and things like that. That's the storytelling part of it. That's very important. And do you feel like that storytelling, is it represented enough, or do you think there needs to be more of that from from athletes or off the court and from off the court and on off the field? Do you think that's is it representing more and being told, or do you think there needs to be more of that storytelling aspect when it comes to sports journalism with athletes?
1,000% needs to be way more. It is not enough. I'm
Yeah.
bored. Like I don't like
Right.
it at all, because I feel like a lot of people, they'll think that like they're adding value just because, like, I think it's more clickbait was like more of a newer word. It's not a word it's always been used, but that's pretty much what people are doing when you're like interviewing the athlete or you talking to an athlete, and it's like you all ask the same things. You're all like, let's get to the root of the people. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is if you get people to like you and be a fan of, like, they'll become a fan of you. Like that's how things work. That's how you sell jerseys and things like that. And when I was in college, I would work in the summers at Topgolf. And people hated Saturdays. I like the Saturdays because during the Saturdays, the parents and the families came. And I realized there from the pattern, if whatever the kid wants, the parents like, okay, fine. Like, you want this so badly, you want this food so badly, fine, I'll get it. Like, just whatever. And it's like, that's how you sell jerseys. When you get those little kids liking you and inspired by you, now they're asking for everything. You have pajama pants, like they're asking for everything of you for Christmas. And now all of a sudden things are selling and people are inspired by you. And I think just what you do on the field or the court, especially when it comes professionally, like, the margin is so small, the window between who's actually good and who's not, because you made it. So obviously you're good enough, but it's like what sets you apart is who you are. And I think a lot of times we're just not really seeing that part of them at all. And I think that's what really needs to change.
Yeah, and that's another good point, because you said when you're asking questions, you do see that. You said we'll get into. I know you were at Super Bowl and everything too, and I'm in the Super Bowl media row. I was there a couple of years ago, and you do hear the same questions over and over and over. And I think we kind of, as content creators and things like that, we take pride into like, okay, is that something different? Is that something about something that's beyond X and O? It's great to have those X and O's questions, because that's part of them, but that's not them. That's not the athlete itself. When they do play the sport, but sometimes you want that insider and that storytelling. I think and a lot of times the athletes, they respect that too, because now you've taken the research to ask them about, oh, what do you like? What's your workout like? What's this? And what's that? They like kids, and they have all these charities and things like that. They like those type of questions. And you're right. I believe that the storytelling aspect is told, but it's still never enough.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure. All right. Well, okay, you shared your story and everything. What's your day-to-day like on a week-to-week basis? Is it different? Talk about a little bit of what you do when it comes to, like you said, the podcasting, being out there, reporting, being credentialed and all that. Talk a little bit about what your day-to-day like. I'm sure it's different each and every week.
Yeah, it is. That's one thing I'm definitely working on, is building structure for myself, because I've never had to do that. It's like when you're younger, you go to school for like 8 hours out of the day. And then especially because we played sports. So there's probably only about 4 hours that like you have to figure out, which is like while you're waiting to go to practice, and then when you get out of practice, waiting for dinner and to go to bed.
Right.
So like you really didn't have to. Then when you go to college and you're an athlete, they give you the schedule. You got meetings, you got this, you got to go here. Then also it's on the newspaper. So I'm not really used to, if I'm being honest, structuring my own day or figuring out like I have all this time. And I'm like, well, what exactly am I
What am I
supposed to
do?
So
Yeah.
that's something I'm definitely working on, sticking to it. But I've noticed that starting off slower in the mornings kind of helped me a little bit, because if I wake up and I automatically first takes my favorite show to watch, but if I turn it on, automatically my brain is just, I'm sorry, I have a dog and he's being
No,
mad.
that's okay. Fine. We'll
Tried to
keep
put
it
my
in podcast.
tried to put
Yes.
my mic on, so hopefully this would drown out some of his sound. But
All
he
good.
knows when I'm busy like this. That's when he cuts up the most. Oh,
Yes,
because he's like, oh, she can't stop and like yell at me. I'm like, you're lucky. I'll get you out.
yes.
But yeah, so it's like if I start, my wheels start to spin like automatically, and it just gets very like hectic. And so I try my best to like have a slow morning, but then I'm like, oh my God, no, the time's ticking, like the day's going by. Because for me, when I hit about 12 o'clock, I'm like, okay, the day's over. It's not literally over, but it feels like it for me, because at that point I have like another like small window. So most of my time though really looks like, it's not usually in a complete system, but it kind of looks like, okay, figuring out whatever videos I have for the day or for like the week and whatnot, and trying to decide, okay, how long is it going to take me? Do I already have like prior research on it and I'm just trying to switch it, or what do I need to do? And so it's kind of like mostly just like the scripting part of it, and then also like recording. But the thing I've noticed is, unless I really talk out what I'm going to say, then it's hard for me to even really like write it down, because it's like I have to speak out loud. So it usually takes me a little bit longer, because usually as I talk is when I discover what it is that I'm trying to say or what I want to say. And so even like doing like my franchise tag video that I got to post today, I'm trying to, go over that. And then I'm sitting here and I'm like, what did I say last year? Because it was a good point I brought up. Like, that was a really good point, but it wasn't something I wrote down. It just was as I was talking. So I have to go back and listen to the past video and be like, oh yeah, that was a good example that I used. I should use that example again, even if everything else in it is changed. And so that's kind of how it looks for that. When it comes to if I have an event or something I have to cover, that's it's a gauntlet, I like to say. It's a very long week, or however long it is that I do. And so that one is kind of literally ripping and running. And it's kind of like my apartment gets tore apart, because every day I'm like switching clothes, or I'm grabbing something, or I'm trying to charge this. And so it can get very crazy when I have to do all of those things. But I'm working on that day to day. I want to have like a clock in and clock out. Like I really want to have that kind of system, but it's a lot harder, especially too with like sports. It's just like if it's someone who works just like in news, for instance, and have to necessarily sports. That's the hard part about it, is it's relevant today and gone tomorrow. And so it's kind of like hard, because you can't really give yourself like, oh, I just want to relax, I want to do this. And it's like, girl, you're missing a whole lot of stuff right now. So definitely trying to build that system. It's like one of my goals for Lent. One of the things I added was like stewarding over my work and stewarding over myself. And so I'm like, okay, you always want, God, I want more. And he's like, girl, do you see, you're not even managing anything that you have right now. You're right.
Yeah, you can't take on more. Right.
Yeah. So I'm trying to steward over my work now. So that's actually one of the things I'm trying to build in Lent. Come talk to me in the next like 40 or so days less, and I'll let you know if I built it or not.
Yes, you get there, and it takes time too, because you gotta, as you said, you're trying to make structure into your day-to-day life in general, and even outside of what you do with the media and reporting and content creation. It's always good to take that time for yourself as well, with family and friends and all that too. But again, you're trying to find time for that. But sports is always evolving, and so there's always something different. We're always constantly on social media, and next thing you know, you're seeing a story that's broke or something, and then you're thinking, oh, when did this break? Like I missed this, because there's so much other things that are going on. Like now in NFL free agency is getting ready to start next week. So that's a whole nother thing of trying to keep up with all the moves. There's already been trades, there's already been different things just in the past 24 hours. And if you're following your favorite team, you think, okay, what are they going to do? Are they doing anything? And then next thing you know, that's sports, like you said, it's like new. That sports cycle just continues to keep going. And on top of the other sports, if you're into like basketball or women's basketball, whatever it is, we're constantly looking at different news each and every 10, 15 minutes or something new.
Yeah, it is. And definitely, I think too, picking what is it that I want to do and sticking to that. Because I've
Yes.
noticed if I try to chase news cycles, that's when I get burned out. And it's like,
Mm,
okay, you're not a news outlet though, Kennedy. That's not what you want to do. You like to
right.
explain sports and stuff. So unless you're explaining why like the Luka Doncic trade, which I didn't do that and I should have, was actually like crazy, why everyone's going up, like the whole world's going crazy about it.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing something like explaining that way. Other than that, McDuffie, he got traded to the Rams.
Yep.
That's not my kind of like coverage, but if I'm chasing it and trying to make a story about it and report on it, it's like that's not what I do. So trying to also have to stay true to myself in a sense, because it can get crazy, like overwhelming if I constantly sit there and try to like cover every single thing that I see. And it's kind of like having to pause and be like, do you really need to report this? Or is it just news, but it's not something that like you need to explain? And so that's kind of how I have to try to start thinking about things, because I'll go insane.
Yeah, the burnout is definitely real.
Yeah.
I've had that doing this, the podcasting, and at that time I was writing with it and trying to get articles out each and every day of different angles of different teams and all this, and I got really burnt out, and I took a year off. I was like, you know what, that was the best thing to ever happen. So yeah, that's good advice. Then I reformatted the podcast, and now I just do it whenever I get a chance. I take my breaks and everything. So you're right, you can't. It's hard to follow so much. That's why, respect for like Adam Schefter and Shams and all those guys. They don't really have and Shams even said it, he's missed a lot of different things when it comes to like weddings, and doesn't have a life. He doesn't have a dating life. He said he doesn't because he's constantly on his phone. And that, hey, if that's what you want to do, that is. But that burnout is for real. I think that's why Woj was like, I need to take a break from this, because it's not for the, if you're not into this, the grind of that, you can really get burnt out and really miss a lot of different things and events and family events and things like that. So
I think it comes down to is that your passion also?
Yeah,
the
yes,
sacrifice is also
absolutely.
worth it. But I think like for me, no, that's not it for me. I used to be a flight attendant, another world. And my dad
I saw that. I saw you talk about that. Yeah.
My dad was like, "Are you going to be a pilot?" I said, "Ew, no." And he's like, "But I said, I don't want to even be a flight attendant long term." I was like, because the way these women talk about missing all their kids' stuff and things like that, there's no way I'm going to put in the effort to be a pilot just to want to quit in a couple of years, because now I'm starting a family and I refuse to miss my kids' things. And so like some people will say that like, oh, well, it's so sexist. I'm like, it's not sexist for me. My thing is, I don't think a man should be missing all of his kids' stuff. It's not about that, whether you're a male or a female, what your role is and what's acceptable. That's just not something that I want. And so I think also knowing what is it that you want, it would not be beneficial at all for me to miss my kids' things, so that I'm constantly, oh my God, they just had the little solo in the school recital. Now I missed it because I'm not trying to tweet, something that's going on. But if that's your passion and is a bit different. And I think you carry the weight of it a little bit different also when it's something that you're passionate about. I think because if it's fueled by what God wants for you, then he's going to make sure that you're poured into, like you're constantly, have the strength to do it. But if he's like, that's not what I asked you to do, that's why you're overly tired. You're gonna get tired regardless. You're gonna get burnt out. You have moments where you don't want to do things. But when you're like miserable, I feel that you just have to take a step back and be like, let's have a chat with him. Is this what you want me to do?
Is this what, yes.
I don't feel no support here. And he's like, that's because that's not what I asked you to do. That's why you feel that extra weight than what it was that I told you. Right. And so I think that's kind of one of the things that I've noticed is having to like pause before I really get into stuff. Like, is this, because sometimes like, oh, this will move the needle. This video could possibly go viral, but what's it going to cost you to sit here and just report on that? And it's not what you're supposed, like your passion, it's not adding that much value to you or your platform. You're just chasing what everyone else is doing. Everyone else has posted a video about this. And it's like, that's not me. And so it's one of the things I always try to keep in mind too, is like, does this benefit me? Posting about somebody, having domestic violence in their personal life. Yeah, that video could possibly go viral, or him and his kids' problems and stuff. It's like, but that's not the kind of platform I want to be. So it's like sticking to being true to who I am and just knowing when and when to like step up and like step back.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And like you said, wherever God leads you to, that's where you're going to be. But as you said, you got to have the passion on top of that. But if God leads you that way, and you might like, oh, that's what it is, and you got to do it, because if you don't, and you said you go a different route, then you're gonna be stuck in that and complaining and everything, getting burnt out, and all that. It was like, well, he said God led you this way, you went that way, and you didn't listen, and this is the result of it. It might take you some time to learn that, but it's like, you didn't listen. So I agree with that as well. So speaking of, you talk about covering events, you were at Super Bowl Media Row and everything too. So all the content as well. When you're covering like major events like that Super Bowl, well, first, how was being at Super Bowl Media Row this year in San Francisco? And what was the biggest challenge in finding those unique angles of covering major events like the Super Bowl?
So I actually did Media Row one day, and then I wasn't even supposed to. Actually, they contacted me the night before, and they were like, "Hey, we need somebody to come to the Bleacher Report booth or whatever. Can you come?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." That was my one day off too, and I was like, "Okay, sure, I'll go." Because in my mind, like I went into this whole like week of like I'm going to leave here with something, like
yes,
I'm going to do
there.
what it is that I know that I need to do. What a lot of people don't know is it's the first time I said it on live once, but I've never like said it like publicly or whatever. I never graduated college. I didn't finish my last semester of school. So how I got into all this in the first place was literally because I had to create like my own path in a sense, because I couldn't get a job in journalism. So I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to Super Bowl week and I'm covering the Pro Bowl and NFL honors and stuff. And you think that I'm not about to really show like I know what I'm doing? Like you got me messed up. So every opportunity, I'm getting like when I left, like not counting like lifestyle videos, but like interviews and stuff. Like I left with 21 videos already posted by the time I left that week, because I was like, oh no, like this is, and I still have more I have to post. Like I was like, this is not going to happen. Like, this is everything I've wanted. Like I'm going to take each opportunity.
Absolutely.
So when they contact me, even though that day was supposed to be my off day, I was like, supposed to be my off day. I was going to catch up on all this like editing and stuff. I was like, it's fine. So I went. I would say Media Row was very hectic. I don't know, it's my first one. But it was very hectic.
It's hectic. Like it is
very like short amount of time. And like me, I like to really talk. Like I want to talk to you and like get to know you. And even if it's in that aspect, I would at least have at least 5 or so minutes at least if I'm going to get to like speak to you. Because a lot of people don't understand is they don't realize I've usually only asked like 2 or 3 questions. It goes so long because they like the question. So they're answering it in detail. And so that's what I think they thought. It was a couple of times I got one of the ladies was like, okay, she needs to wrap it up. My sister got to come with me. She had to be my +1. So she was my videographer. Yeah. And so my sister was like, well, I don't know why she told me that or whatever. Cause like, what am I supposed to do? Like cut y'all off in the middle of it? And then the lady was like, yeah, it just has to be. I was like, it was 2 minutes and 22 seconds unedited was how long the interview was. I was like, I literally asked him 2 questions. Like, if you look at it, the guy is talking the whole time. I literally, my question, it was Jordan Poyer. And I asked him, I said, okay, well, what would be, everyone knows says that being a defensive back is the second hardest position in football outside of a quarterback. From your vantage point, like, why is that? And so he just went in and was explaining it. And then he talked about like the mental aspect of it and putting a play behind you. And I was like, okay. So my follow-up question was, okay, well, we in everyday life, we deal with things like where we have to put things behind us, where we're going through stuff and we just literally need to move forward. I was like, but you guys have to do that for a living. Like, within seconds, you just messed something up. You blew a coverage. Now you have to get back into the next path. I was like, so what would you tell someone? Like, how would they do that? And so he's answering that question and he's answering it in detail. And I'm like, one, this is a very good point. He's talking about mental health and stuff. I'm not about to cut him off. Second of all, I only asked 2 questions. And so I would say like Media Row is definitely a different vibe. You don't know who you're interviewing for my sake, for my experience anyways. It literally was like whoever. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I'm like really having to think off my head what questions to ask. Some people I didn't even know. Some people I didn't even know their name. They're like, Kennedy, this next person. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, like I have, and especially too, if you're talking about football, they wear helmets. So I a lot of people, I don't know what you actually look like.
Yep.
And so I'm just like, what is going on? And so, yeah, it was definitely, that part was quite hectic. The Pro Bowl was a little bit different because it was a little bit more laid back and whatnot. Yeah. And I think you kind of get more, you have still a window, but it's a window of how much you want to use based off of whichever athlete you want to interview. And so I liked the Pro Bowl and I liked doing NFL honors. And so like I told my sister, I was like, if they invite me again next year, I don't want media role. I don't want them being like, we're gonna be nice and switch it up. Give me my Pro Bowl again and give me my NFL honors. And I did opening night too, Super Bowl opening night. That's another one that's a little bit more laid back. I would say I don't like the shark mentality of journalists. Oh my goodness. Like
Oh my goodness.
they're so rude. Like it's some I
yes,
was like, you guys not have manners? Like I'm just not used to that. And I always believe again, I'm like, I'm not gonna have to like change up my character in order to get an interview. Like whoever I need to talk to, like I always believe like God is in your hands. Like I'm gonna do my job. You know, I'm gonna show up and temp, but I'm like, I'm not being rude and cutting somebody off or something just so I can get an interview. And I didn't realize that because we were at opening night and one of the players for the Patriots, I don't want to say his first name wrong, but I'm sitting there waiting. More people keep coming up and then they just keep like cutting me off. I'm getting ready to speak. He literally stops in the middle of the interview and he goes, I'm sorry. I promise I'll get to you next. Please don't leave. And I was like, oh, thank you. And so it's like, that doesn't always happen, but I appreciated the fact that that's what he did because they just kept, and then it was, I won't say the names, it was a major network that was about to cut me off. And they were like, oh, I guess he's going in a circle. No, he's not going in a circle. He's going off of like who was standing here.
Who was standing
like,
waiting already, right.
Yeah. And it's just like, you can wait, you know, and I think that it's just a different type of environment for sure. And I was just like, I told my sister, I was like, I don't like this, you know, environment. Like, this is too much for me. Like in the aspect of like the rudeness is too much for me. Just because I'm like, oh no, you didn't see me. And there was one guy, he was really nice. He was waiting next in line. He's like, oh, do you want to go? I was like, no, like you were next. No, go ahead. I don't mind waiting. And I was like, I want to tell him so badly. Sir, have you been seeing what's happening? If you let me go, it might more people come over here next or whatever.
Yeah.
But he was an older guy. He was really nice. And I was like, okay. I was like, thank you. I really appreciate it because he literally let me cut him in line. I was like, I was just waiting to go after you. And so you do find people that are like that. But my friend told me after the first day, she's like, you've got to be a shark. I was like, I don't want to be a shark. She's like, you need to be a shark, Kennedy. You're going to have to. She's like, you know what they do? They always play dumb. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Were you next? Oh, I'm sorry. And they keep going. She's like, they knew you were next or whatever. You got to. And I was like, oh, like, I don't know. So those two spaces were definitely a little bit more hectic. But then also, I would say the red carpet, that one is just, it's more short. It's a shorter time. It's hard because they're moving pretty fast. I'm short. So I'm trying to see who's coming around the bend of this corner to even know if I want to stop them. I'm trying to read. Next time they need to have tall people holding the signs that say because girls walking through, she's like 5 foot like me, and her signs, she's holding it down here like at her waist. I'm like, I can't see who.
Can't see that sign. Who? Yeah, right.
Oh gosh. And so it was just like having to constantly like breathe. I was like I said, Pro Bowl probably was like the most relaxed / easiest experience and whatnot because it kind of just like a free for all. You can kind of just go up and talk to people. It was more laid back and things like that. But oh my goodness, that was some things that I learned. And then you asked me, how do I prepare for my questions to be something different, right?
You're right. Yeah, being unique. Yep.
Oh man, that one I went through before I went because I was like, oh, I'm taking advantage of this opportunity. I first made a Notion page and I have like pages that profiles. I got their pictures like of all who's in the Pro Bowl. And I went over the Walter Payton Man of the Year first. I'm like, Kennedy, we don't got time to go through Walter Payton. Like you might not even run into all of these, but I'm like, I need to know so much about them. And then I was like, okay, sorry. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna at least know what school they went to. Something. I'm like, okay, you're doing too much. Like, let's just be realistic. Who do we really want to get? And then also have questions that are kind of based off of a little bit like just universal in a sense. And so I kind of divided my questions up based off of the atmosphere. So Pro Bowl is more fun. So I like one of my favorite new like signature questions is like, okay, I teach and explain sports to girls. How would you explain to them what your position is? Because I tell them, but like, how would you describe it? That's more of like a fun question. There was a trend that's been going around about like explaining your love life in whatever sport you play. And so I did that one in football. That's more fun. I'm not at opening night asking you to explain your love life in football terms or NFL honors. Like I kind of want to have that space for like more of my like more serious questions. Like what are some life like not literally life lessons you learned, but like those kind of questions
more personable.
More of those that are more a little bit more like deep, more about your journey. Whereas Pro Bowl, we're having fun. It's a different vibe. So that was kind of how I went about dividing my questions up because at the same time, I'm like, you do want to come off like, a little bit more legit. You don't want to just sit here and just be like, girl, this girl is over here asking me just the dumbest questions. Like, do you not know what event we're at? Like, I'm not here being nominated for an award. and you're just asking me, what's your favorite color? You know, so it's like being a little bit self-aware of what kind of questions I would ask at each space was what was kind of like most important to me. And so from there, I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what am I going to say? And so I always usually like to ask, like, I'd like to start off too, usually honors and opening night I didn't, but like if I'm doing any type of like interview, like whether it's at like the Shrine Bowl or like Pro Bowl and stuff, I like to get them comfortable first. And so I always will ask them questions like, what's the top 5, favorite song or artist you have to listen to before a game? Like talking to them about stuff that they feel comfortable to talk about. Because all of a sudden they're like, oh, cool, she's going to ask me cool stuff. And a lot of people don't realize like they really do enjoy that because I got interviews last year at the Shrine Bowl. I always would tell them before, I'm like, just so you know, like mine are like very fun, like lighthearted questions. And one of the guys literally said, oh, I know. That's the only reason I told them I'd do the interview when they told me that you just asked like fun questions. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Nobody wants to sit here and be asked the same questions over and over again.
Right.
And I get it, we all have a different platform. So don't get me wrong. But at the same time, if your lane is to ask more of those deeper questions, then do that. I'm not saying that you should change what it is that you're supposed to do. But in case you're someone that's kind of like, I don't really know, I'm here to tell you they do enjoy knowing and like being asked other things. It still could be around their sport, but more than like, especially those kids are in the draft prospects section, you're asking them like, oh, who do you model their game after? You technically already know who they model their game after. You already know that question. You're just asking it to get it on your platform. But now poor guy has to say it like 10, 15 times already. When he's hopping around from, section to section. And so it's kind of a little bit looking out for them because you'll see them kind of change. And you don't really get a lot of PR answers either. Not saying that you want to catch them off guard and ask them something like that could get them in trouble or make them look bad. But they usually know how to answer certain questions. It's like kind of just routine for them. But when you ask them something that's not necessarily routine, that's when you get the personality in them. And you get to kind of really see more of who they are and stuff and see them joke and laugh. And I'll get people like, oh my God, I've never seen so-and-so act like this before. And I'm like, that's because no one's talked to him before in a more fun about his life or in a more fun way. And so that's definitely something that I would say is how I kind of went into it, is just trying to really find the way to really make it like interesting for them.
Yeah, I love that. No, I really do like that because, like you said, I like the unique style, the unique way of asking questions and things like that. I always try to angle that as well when it comes to anyone in the interview, like yourself or anybody else, try to come at a different angle. When you're talking about Super Bowl media role, I'm with you on all of that, 100%. I didn't know what to expect. And the rudeness of some of the media just so they can get in. Some of the people that go there, they want to be seen, they want to be heard. So they're, like you said, they're doing whatever, they're showing out to however they want to do. So they're actually being rude. They are sharks and things like that. And when I did it, like I said, I did it one time too, 2 years ago. Same thing. When you were talking about that, I was just like, yes, I can resonate with everything you said, agree with everything you said, because they do cut in front of you. They do. I'm like, hey, I wasn't used to this. I didn't like that experience with that opening night and everything too. Now, when our network went, we actually got a table when we ended up having interviews when it was, and it is hectic. It's very hectic. It's very fast paced. And then you had the PR people from whoever the athlete was or the celebrity was or whoever, they gave you 10, 15 minutes and they're cutting them off like, okay. And I know they got to go to different booths and different interviews and things like that. So we were okay with that because that was a little bit more structured. But you said opening night, everything you was just saying, I totally agree. Some of the rudeness, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't even want to. I said, if I was to ever go again, I don't want. Overnight is great and everything, but I don't want to do that because of the rudeness of the media and things like that. And my wife she was the plus one, and we brought the 2 other guys on the network, and she was more of she did video and stuff like that. And she said, yeah, you got to be in there. I was like, that's not me. That's just, I'm not that type of person. So when you were talking about that, I was just agreeing like, yes, I definitely understand that for sure. Yeah. It's just too much. It's too much. It was too much. And yeah, we got a lot of great content.
If people had manners, it'd be fine. It wouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that bad.
It wouldn't be that bad if people had
manners.
It
wouldn't be that bad. And I mean, and maybe me and you are asking for too much of people having manners. That's just common sense stuff. I guess some people just don't have it. We do.
Right.
But if people had manners, I say, hey,
and
you want
to
to be sharp?
Look at them crazy.
Yeah,
you're wrong.
Then we're wrong.
I know you did not just.
I know, like we're wrong. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Like, oh, we're wrong. Okay, we're the wrong. I guess we're the wrong ones. I guess, and
yeah,
not being rude is wrong. I guess
right,
No,
yeah,
but yeah, that was it's an experience. So anybody's listening to this, it's an experience. Just be
yeah,
prepared. You got to be aggressive. Yes, you do. But
yeah,
there's times where you could be aggressive, but there's times, like you said, have manners and be polite and authentic with yourself, because like I said, that's not me either. I'm not gonna go and do that. It's like, you know what, I don't have to be in this environment and I'm good.
yes,
I can, I'll go somewhere else. But I think when we're walking around after I think that's where you could actually get some interviews one-on-one with people. That's where it's the
yeah.
best. But
That's what I,
some of the athletes, like you said, they'll look and say, this person was waiting this long, let me
yeah,
um yeah, I'll be right with you and stuff like that. So I totally resonate with everything you said.
yeah. Then there were
For
some
sure.
people that were like trying to cut us off, and I'm like,
You
you're
got it off, yeah.
recording with your video, and you don't even have his face all the way in it. You know what? I'm not
Right,
even gonna
right.
help you now because I want to tell you, pick your phone up. I hope you're not about to post this somewhere because what are you
Yes.
doing? Like his face isn't even all the way in. You got his chin down. Like I was just
Yes.
like, oh
It,
gosh,
it, it, it was something. It was a fun experience, a very fun experience. Like you said, it's the biggest, the biggest sporting event in America, at least.
yeah,
And it's great. And once they say it's a dream come true, I got to go the one time and everything. They've been trying to go the next couple, like maybe go next year. But yeah,
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. It is a lot of
yeah,
fun, but it's a lot of work. It's nothing to play. I told someone it's nothing. If you're going to do work, you're going to be doing some work. You're going to be hustling and doing work.
yeah. I need to.
Yeah.
One second, my dog is cutting up. Come here. What is wrong with you today? You just woke up and you just. Come on. You see, I'm busy. He's gonna go outside and play for a while.
Okay. All right. No problem. Hey,
Oh my gosh,
this
if
is
you could see this atrocity that he's
just
caused.
tear it up. Just tear it up. He sees that you're not paying
It's ripped
attention to
stuff
him.
up. Oh
So
my gosh.
he's like, you know what? I'm gonna take advantage of this.
Yeah,
That's what
oh,
he said.
and that's
Yeah.
one of the things that's hard. It's like working at home
Yeah, work from home. I work from home too. Yep, I get
with him. I can't.
it.
He's just, and it's like the thing is, if I put him in his cage, he cries.
Mm,
So it's like I can't because then people can't hear and you're whining. So no, so it's like yeah, and then if he knows that like he hears another person's voice,
hmm
hold
He's
on a
like, who's
second, he
that?
can tell almost if I'm like on TikTok, he can like tell he don't really like whatever, but it's like he can tell if I'm like talking to
Talking.
someone's talking back.
Mhm.
He's like, hold on a second, what are we doing? So
He said, well, who's this? Who's this talking?
yes,
Who's this?
but yeah, I'm sorry. Back to what you were saying. Yes, I would like to go back as well. Hopefully next year. Hopefully, no offense to the teams, but a little different.
Yeah. It'd be a little different
But
and like different vibe, hopefully. And it's in LA next year too. So that
yeah, I
should
was
be
like
a
in
little bit different.
California again, and that was the thing too. It's like because I'm from Kansas City, and I told them it was probably like November. I had a feeling we weren't going to make it to the playoffs very early on. When they
Yeah.
lost to the Eagles, it was only the second game, but I was like, this is not going well. This is not going well. And then the Chargers kept winning. They won all their first three. Their
Yeah.
first three games were against the. I was like, oh, this is not going so well. Like, what are we gonna do?
Can they turn
And
around? They're gonna turn around. Right.
yeah, I was like, this is gonna be a very tight window for the rest of this time. And I told them like November. This was we either already knew or like at that point it was pretty much like it was over. I told my family, I was like, watch, this is gonna be the 1 year I actually get invited. The Chiefs aren't gonna be there. They've been in 3 years after
Yep.
this. This could be the one time. And that's the thing. I was like, oh, I'm stressed too about the Super Bowl because I'm thinking like, okay, who exactly, can I like trying to like these are the two teams I was like, I feel like I don't know that much about. Whereas
Right.
like, well, no, that was the last 4 teams. I was like, well, Broncos kind of. I was really rooting for the Texans. I was like, okay, I know some stuff about the Texans.
Yeah.
And I was sitting here and I'm like, oh my gosh, what?
You just never knew,
Steelers?
didn't know.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what are we? And then it's so different even from, like back when I was like younger and stuff. And so I was like, oh, great. This would be the one. Like last year, oh, I would have embodied that Super Bowl. I'm like,
Oh, me too.
Eagles?
Because I'm an Eagles fan. So
You are, yeah. I was like, oh, I know some stuff
yeah,
about these teams.
yes.
I know these players. I know how exactly what questions
Yep.
I would ask them that have nothing to do with football. Like I know, but this one I'm like, gosh, I gotta really try to like look up stuff. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely. I was like, this would be the one year. Then I got invited. I said, see, I told y'all. My
Yeah.
damn,
Yep.
you told us. I told you. This is gonna be the one time I
The
get
one
invited.
time.
The
Yes.
past years, I mean, like last year, I cried when I didn't get invited. I was so mad. And I was just like, I'm irritated. My city's on the verge of creating history, and I'm not invited. And it's in New Orleans. I was very upset. And I was like, God, I'm not trying to be entitled, but I'm really upset.
Well, I want to
About.
know. Right.
Yeah, no. And it's like when you see people, and I had a manager at the time. I contacted her about it, and I was like, I'm confused because I'm seeing girls with less followers and engagement than me. That's what they like to talk about. Engagement's important and all this. I was like, they have both of those are less than me. What am I missing? Is someone telling you something? Are you like I'm confused? And she's just like, oh, just keep posting and building your. You're not listening to what I'm saying. So yeah, she got fired back in March of last year. But I was like, are you not like reaching out? Are you? That's the whole point of why I got you. Was because with a manager you have access to all the emails and stuff that I can't get access to. That's not public. So I was like, I think there's only one deal that I knew for a fact that I knew that she reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm working a deal with this with like an ad to do with ESPN. I was like, okay. But other than that, the rest of them like they contacted me first and then I'll have to like add her on. So I was like, well, what am I adding, paying, commission and stuff for if I'm getting the same work I was getting by
Emails that you're
myself.
getting. Yep.
Yeah. So that was the whole thing. But I was like so upset. I just picked up my groceries at the little curb pickup at Walmart and I was just crying. I was so angry.
Yes.
And I was like, no, this is like I think people too, you have to understand like when you know yourself or like have like there's areas of course that I'm like, oh, I'm not that great at, even work wise. But it's like, no, I was like, I'm upset. I don't like this at all. I need to calm down because I'm being entitled, God. I know I am, but just give me a moment to vent. And then I'll ask for. I'll tell you that I'm done. I'll be done with my.
You're like then I can try to move on. Yeah, it was the same with me too because I'm an Eagles fan and when the Eagles were against the Chiefs last year and the network did get they sent a couple other people and I had an opportunity to go, but me and my wife we're celebrating our 20th year anniversary.
Oh,
so thank you. That was last year, and we were saving for Hawaii. So I was like, okay, I can't pull Hawaii in this. And I was like, oh, the Eagles are in the Super Bowl too. So I definitely was watching a whole bunch of everything that was at Media Row. And I went the year before and said in Vegas. And I was like, oh my goodness, we still had an opportunity to go. And this year we didn't. We didn't get picked this year. So I was like, well, maybe that was a sign. Like you said, that was God just saying, it's just not. It wasn't the Eagles Super Bowl because I probably would have been too much of a fan instead of doing my own thing. Right. I would have been fanning it. I would have been fanning and then not thinking, oh my goodness, Jalen Hurts and Saquon and all that. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's a good thing I did not go to the set last year. So, but it was all good. I'm learning to be more content and everything like you said, and that's one thing I'm working on too, just being content and other opportunities always arise anyway. So God always has us in the right, as we talk, like He has us in the right direction. So we just got to believe and continue to keep. There'll be opportunity. You got the opportunity to go this year, so and put out really good content. So that was really good. All right, I just got a couple more. We could talk hours. I know we could. So no, but you're all good. I just got 2 more. I want to talk about the KC Locker Room Talk, the podcast that you do. Talk about what it is, what it entails, and what's its ultimate goal.
So I started back when I was still living in Kansas City, so that's why. One of my friends was gonna do it with me. Her first name is a C, and so I'm like, oh, KC, that's like where we're from. She ended up not doing it, and so I was like, okay, well, I kept it because I wanted the theme of locker room because I always say like locker room is like a very vulnerable place. Like that's where people are changing. No cameras and stuff are allowed in there. You don't have, because it's a safe space in a sense because it's like you're stripping yourself down and things like that. You're taking showers, and so I was like, I wanted the environment of my podcast to be the same way. Like I want when athletes come on or just anyone that comes on to know this is a safe space. And so my intro always was what's said in the locker room stays in the locker room. Like this is a safe vibe. And so that was why I wanted it. But the name literally Locker Room Talk, the Locker Room Talk, all that had already multiple names. I don't want people getting it confused. And so KC Locker Room Talk was not taken. So that was the one that I had went with. And I kind of wanted to really build my own space in a sense of being able to like have more of those like conversations and things like
Yeah.
that are more serious. Like one of the things I like that not like, but that's important to me is like athletes' mental health in general. But because I do sports, particularly obviously athletes is my like primary objective per se. And so it's like if I want to talk about those kinds of things, I want to create a space where it's safe enough for you to talk about that kind of stuff and
Yeah.
to be real. And people would always ask me like, because I started like right when I was like my senior year of college, and people always ask me questions about my life and stuff. I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna get on this internet, I'm gonna tell y'all my business. The thing is, I'm like, I don't have the answers, but I can definitely tell you things I've done that have not worked. I may not tell you what's gonna work, but I can tell you
Right.
what to take off your list. So if you got a list of things, you can go ahead and check those off because we know for a fact that they don't work. So I was like, I want this to be like that kind of space, even for like myself. And so that was kind of what it was. My ultimate goal for it is probably I want it to become like a show. It doesn't have to be like on a network or anything like that, but just like it's just a show that people just expect to see. And I kind of wanted to get into it a little bit more where I also still cover sports a little bit differently on there as well. So that way it's kind of like a weekly update of like, what is it that I actually need to know that happened this week? That's probably where I would throw in there like, oh, Trent McDuffie got traded to the Rams, like little stuff like that. But not like huge like explainers or things like that. And so I would just like it to just kind of be honestly my own media network in a sense, where it's like I cover just a few different angles. If it's like the once a week covering a little bit about the sports, but then I still have an episode that's separate about my lifestyle. So that way, if you're someone who only cares about, oh, Kennedy, tell me about Super Bowl week or tell me about your life. What? Because there's a lot of things I learned that week that I'm like, okay, for next year, we're going to have to keep this in mind. Like getting some really good shoes is going to be really important.
Yes, comfortable
you might
shoes.
want
Yes.
that. Yes, you might want that episode. That would be, more on like a Friday episode. It's a lifestyle. But someone who's just someone who is a huge sports fan, she might be like, okay, I really don't care about what you do in your personal life, girl. We don't relate at all. Like, what can I learn from, I'm trying to get my updates. I don't want ESPN blasting, every 2 seconds, or I don't, sometimes the app can be overwhelming if you don't really know what's going on. Like, what do I need to know? Keep me in the know. And so that's kind of where it is. But like I said, also wanting to have that space to like talk to athletes on there and things like that. And that's kind of what I want. It's a little bit harder being a girl, trying to reach out to men on DMs and all that and stuff. It's a very slippery slope, So that's one thing that is harder, but I'm like, this year I'm going to toughen it out and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, just do it. I mean, it's no, and that's good advice too. When people want to start their own, say, podcast or want to get into this content creation and things like that, I think it is interesting because, like I said, I highlight a lot of different women in the space, and I guess you said it might be harder for a woman to ask that, but as you said, you keep it professional and you keep it and like that, and you're just asking that, and if it gets too far with the guy, then I know you could be like, okay, I'll just cut that off. That's not working. It's not gonna happen, and everything. That radar comes up like, okay, so I try to keep it as professional. I reach out and everything too. Like you said, it's different for sure, but you're right. It's like I said, you said you do it, and there's a lot of guys that will respect that and say, hey, okay, you just want an interview. That's it. You just want to have an interview. That's it. That's all I want to do. Have an interview. Want to highlight you, and that's where it goes and everything too. But I like that the concept that you have with the it basically inside the locker room, have a lifestyle, because you do doing, like I said, lifestyle, add a little sports twist to it. And they're talking about what stays in the locker room. Yes, they talk to in the locker room, stays in the locker room. That's a true statement. Sometimes they still spill out to the media.
Right.
And everything, toxic things happen, but we start getting it. Leaks happen, and you're like, oh, okay, where did that come from? Somebody leaked that out. So, but I like that concept of locker room talk. And you said, you just say, hey, I'm just reporting this because it's something. You said mental health, very important. That's been talked about a lot, especially over the last 5-6 years. But it's open now. It's like it's nothing to be ashamed of and things like that. So you're bringing it from a different angle. So I appreciate that. Again, storytelling. It's very important for sure. All right, last question, and then I'll let you go. Since it is Women's History Month, And, I wanted to highlight you and what you do and everything too. So what does Women's History Month mean to you on a personal and professional level?
It's kind of funny because I think I discovered it even existed like
Mm,
maybe barely 2 years ago or so. Like I
right.
didn't even know that that was like a thing. And so when someone's like, "Oh, they want to feature," I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. Like, thank you."
Yeah.
But I would say I think when people talk about like representation and stuff is like important. I think it definitely is. It does help and it is important because it's kind of like it lets other people see. You think for a second that you don't really need to see people that are like you or things like that, but it does help when you do see it or see that, oh, okay, so I can make it in this space and whatever it is that you do, if even if it's like medicine or if it doesn't have to necessarily be sports, but it is
Right.
nice to see that. And so I think it's important for other people to see that and also just know your history too. Because sometimes too, you walk with your head held a little bit more higher when you know that someone who looked like you know, did a certain thing or was, the first person to do this or that. And so I do think it's like very important.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Well, Kennedy, this has been a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
really loved and enjoyed this conversation. I really did. So I'm so glad that we got to do this, and I'm glad that you accepted that invite and
Yeah.
appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you again. And many blessings to you moving forward with everything you got going on and everything. Hopefully, maybe we'll meet in person sometime
Yeah.
in a Super Bowl or something, an
Yes.
event somewhere, I'm
Yeah.
sure, and everything too. But I do appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Thank you again for being part of this series that I'm doing as well. And let everyone know where they can follow you on social media, want to reach out to you, or and everything. Subscribe and all those things to your channel and your podcast and everything.
So my name is just Kennedy Bright 24 is on everything. And then also my podcast is Casey Locker Room Talk. I only have an Instagram for that. But my podcast, like if you watch it versus just like listening to it and stuff, it's on my YouTube as well. And that's Kennedy Bright 24. So like it's literally me on everything except I have like one podcast page. And then the actual podcast is Casey Locker Room Talk on all the podcast platforms. But yeah, so if you ever go to just one of my pages and hit the link in my bio, the little Kennedy Bright website, it'll give you every link that's possible. So
Yeah. Yes.
yes, you'll
So
be able to find it all too.
follow Kennedy, follow her work, like,
Thank you.
subscribe, all those things. That's the easiest thing to do. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Those are the easy things to do. So we'll definitely do that as well. So again, I can't thank you enough. Really appreciate it, and hopefully we
Yeah.
can do this again, maybe during before football season, and
Yeah.
we'll chat and everything too. But I really do appreciate it. Thank you
Yeah.
for sure, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. And looking forward to all the rest of the content you got coming up the rest of the year as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You too.
All right. Thank you. All right. You enjoy. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.